A first listen and analysis of Parabol and Parabola by Tool. So initially I was only planning to cover the track Parabola here today. However, I've been told by Tool fans in my comments section that the track Parabol is in some ways a predecessor to the track Parabola, and they link together really well. And so here we are, we're going to cover both of the tracks here today. Now, one of the aspects of Tool's music which I love the most is the idea that they write and create music to a concept. And this may be the most brilliant or interesting concept I have covered so far here on this channel. Is of course the idea that the music will mimic in some way the parabola, which in mathematics is the U-shaped symmetrical curve where there is a sort of a descent into, or a dip into the bottom, and then an eventual climb to the climax, which I think again the music will try and structurally mimic. Super interesting stuff. I do wonder how the first track, Parabol, will link into it, but I guess that's what we'll find out. So let's get into the music. Okay, here we go with the reaction. This is Parabol, the first of two. I've also got the lyrics up to help me follow along. So let's get into this track. Very meditative start. Calm.
So familiar and overwhelmingly this oneness for my whole
Check out this atmosphere.
embracing you, this reality this oneness for my whole now.
He's writing. Wow. Okay, what's quite incredible to me is Maynard's voice and how hypnotic it can be at times. Alongside his writing, which is always so brilliant and poetic, it really can take you to some special places. It's a very unique experience listening to Tool, man. It's really unlike anything else. They are such a combination of brilliant things together. And one of the aspects that I think is kind of maybe I've not explored yet is the idea that Maynard is almost like a shaman, you know? It's like a shaman putting a spell on you. And their music is like some kind of psychedelic experience. It's like taking ayahuasca or something. That's what it reminds me. I know certainly if I were to do some ayahuasca, perhaps this is what I'd hear, you know, like pretty profound stuff. Let's keep this going.
Choosing to be here right now.
Wow. I got the chills listening to that, man. Legitimately, I got the chills. What I'm going to do is back this up a little bit more and go again when I go into the next reaction. But just to quickly speak about what we just listened to, I think it's really interesting. A couple of things are really interesting is that the fact that they call this track Parabol. Now, they spelt it oddly, I guess to fit and make sure that people understand this is like the predecessor to the next track. But you know, if anything, this is a parable, right? Meaning in the sense that it's, you know, parables in a biblical religious sense are, you know, lessons being taught to people through a story. And I guess this is what is happening, right? He's exploring the story of a life. It seems like to me, and this is the very beginning. I'm not talking about birth. I'm talking about that period where before you're even alive, that you're, I guess, unconscious, but Maynard is making the guess that we come from knowing before we forget it all and we become a child and go through life again. Brilliant, brilliant conceptually, man. Now, what I'm guessing is about to happen, right, is the idea of the parabola. That's hit me while I was listening to the track. Okay, if we're starting in this place where we're essentially with God, let's say, or we're in this place where we're all knowing, is the height of the initial peak of the parabola, right? And we've kind of started to go into life, and we'll dip into what is regular life and rise again, ascend back into this place, which I guess what happens when we die. This is my guess of what is about to happen, but this is just an initial tour. So let's get into the track. I'll back it up and go from here. Okay, let's keep this thing rolling.
Reminding me that I am not alone in this, but it makes me feel eternal. All this pain is an illusion. We barely remember who or what came before this precious woman. We're choosing to be here right now. Hold on, stay inside this
Turn it off. Okay, now listening to Tool is truly a completely unique experience. It's wholly different to the things I've heard. They have aspects of them that I think you can make connections to other bands, but it's just totally unique. And some of it, of course, some of it is listening to Maynard and his brilliant voice and his incredible concepts that he comes up with is in his writing. But you have to give credit to Adam Jones and the atmosphere he creates with his guitar skills. His guitar works in a different way to other guitarists. It's not like he's trying to like make you think it's almost a guitar playing. It's a whole nother thing. It's like an electrical field that he creates, you know, that you exist in while the music is playing. It's really, really different. Now, it turns out, I guess my guess was kind of right. It's like as we dipped into the parabola, which is life, this section which is life, the intensity absolutely just turned up 1,000,000 degrees. I think it's really, really cool as well that this track, the beginning of the track was so quiet and meditative. It's like actually quiet, mixed wise. Like it was very, very like low in sound, and then everything switches on. And this is the battle or the sort of reality of life, right? The turmoil that you go through. Again, represented through the music and the lyrics. Some brilliant writing. This body holding me. Be my reminder here that I am not alone in. Feeling eternal, all this pain is an illusion. So the idea that the life that you live is transient is essentially what is being sort of espoused here. Now, the brilliant idea of this is that you forget, essentially what he's trying to say is that we come from a place of consciousness, but we seem to forget about all of that and then come into reality. But he's saying that we should hold on to this idea that life is somewhat of an illusion. Wow. So many deep concepts being covered here. Let's keep this thing going.
Holding me, feeling eternal, all this pain is an illusion. Swirling around with this familiar parable, spinning, waving around each
Wow.
new experience. Recognize this as a whole, and you can celebrate this chance to be alive and breathing. Chance to be alive and
Daniel Carey.
This body holding me reminds me of my own mortality. Embrace this moment. Remember, we are eternal. All this pain is an illusion.
Listen to those guitars. Who else makes music like this? who else makes music anywhere near to this? Like, I don't. That was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant execution of an idea, of a concept. Now, there's so much to speak about there, right? The way that they ended the track as well with that distortion, which is like you essentially returning home. Isn't it so cool that as we got closer to the end of the parabola, right, as we're dipping back into returning to that place where we once were from, they would throw back in the music aspects of the early part of it, the parable part of the song, right? And it's really interesting, of course, that they call it a parable, because in the end of it, that's what it was, right? It was a parable. The beginning section of the song was the thesis of the track, essentially, that the idea, this is a story of a person, or let's just say a lesson being taught, that you eventually realize or come to realize that your body is just some sort of vessel for the spiritual. An incredible lesson to be told, and told through the music and the writing. Most importantly, you had that middle section then kick in, which would be the reality of existence, the difficulty, the turmoils that you would experience as a person. And then again, these shifts in the music continuously to tell the story, and then at the end returning with the distortion of the guitars back to that place of essentially not remembering, but it's pure consciousness once again. Very cool that they added this cyclic nature to the song too, right? The idea of the parabola, where you return back to this point, but you end up understanding that this point is exactly where you started once again. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe Maynard, maybe members of the Tool are Buddhists in a sense, that they believe in the idea of reincarnation, which it seems like in a lot of their music. It certainly has a huge spiritual component to it. If you ask me what the biggest lesson to take away from this is that we are lucky to be alive, and he explained that through one of the parts of the track. Here it is here. Celebrate this chance to be alive, breathing, a chance to be alive and breathing. This is essentially what we're here for, right? To learn lessons before we return back. I recently listened to a interesting podcast with Duncan Trussell on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he said that if we really were gods, or we come from God, and we were all powerful and all knowing, wouldn't we at some point want to experience what it would be like to know nothing again and to learn lessons, and once after completing that, returning back to knowing, which made a lot of sense to me. And I guess it's part of the kind of concept of the parable being taught here. Like, while we're here, enjoy it, and certainly try and learn while you're here. Really, really beautiful tale, and all these fascinating concepts explored throughout: spirituality, death, birth. Brilliant stuff, man. I've really never heard anything like this. I've never heard music sort of conceptualized like this, to follow mathematical structures. Listen, man, the more I hear of Tool, the more I'm impressed by them. Absolutely unique experience listening to them, and that's what it is. It's an experience, absolute experience listening to them. Brilliant. Listen, does it even need to be said? That's a 10 out of 10. That's another 10 from Tool. They've got like 4 so far, and I've heard 5 tracks, so 2 thumbs up.